Alright, so now we're going to look at calculating the standard deviation of a data set. Okay, so the formula is written right here. You can see it on page 256 of your textbook. I have the process written here, but if you understand how to read this formula, it tells you the steps that you need to do and the order that you need to do the steps. So this looks like a jumbled mess when you first look at it, but you start on the inside and work your way to the outside, kind of like a... So you're right here, this is the inside part right here, x minus x bar. Well, x bar, you know, is the mean, okay? So that means, first of all, we're going to need to know what the mean is, so that's why the first step is to calculate the mean, okay? Then this is x minus x bar, so that means the data value minus the mean. So what you're going to do is take each data value, each x value, and subtract the x bar, the mean. So step 2 is to subtract the mean from each data value. Okay? Now the next piece that you have to do after you did x minus x bar is apply the order of operations, so the exponent 2. So that means you're going to take each result from this step here and square it. Okay? So that's this accounted for. Now we need to do this part. What does this mean? Well, this just means find the sum of all of these numbers. So the result from step 3, well, the results, we're just going to take them all and add them all up. Okay? Next piece would be over n, so divide by n. So that means take the result from step 4, divide by how many data values you have in the data set. So that's step 5, divide the result from 4 by the number of data values that you have in the set. Okay? And then last but not least, you take the square root of all of that. Okay? So if you get used to reading that formula, you don't need to memorize this process that's here. That may look like a lot, but let's just look at an example to give you an idea of what you're doing. So you're going to find the standard deviation of this data set right here. So the data set is 7, 9, 12, and 15. So remember, starting on the inside here, my first step would be right here. So that means I need to know what my mean is. So I need to calculate the mean. So the mean, quite simply, is just going to be 7 plus 9 plus 12 plus 15 over 4. That gives me 10.75. Okay? So my mean is 10.75. Alright? Now, I know what my mean is, so my step 2 is going to be to take each data value and subtract the mean. Alright, so my data values are 7, 9, 12, and 15. So I'm actually going to set up a table here. So this is how I like to organize my work here anyway. So my table has the list of data values. So the data values are 7, 9, 12, and 15. Then what I'm going to do is this part that's inside the brackets here, so data value minus mean. So that's my heading here, data value minus mean. Okay, we'll fill in the last column after. So data value minus mean. So data value here is 7, mean is 10.75. So it's 7 minus 10.75. Okay, of course that's negative 3.75. Okay, remembering that you're taking every data value and subtracting your mean, right? Okay. Next one would be the next data value, 9 minus 10.75. So that gives me negative 1.75. Okay. Try to keep these a little bit organized. So then next one is 12 minus 10.75. So that's 1.25. And the next one would be 15 minus 10.75, which would be 4.25. Okay? So as you can see, I just took each data value and subtracted the mean. Alright? So now, that's this step here. The next step is to square them all. So my next column would be your x minus x bar, and all of those values being squared. So this would be negative 3.75 squared. Alright? So what you're going to do is just take that value, square it. That comes out to be 14.0625. Now I take this value, negative 1.75, and square it. So negative 1.75, and I square it, gives me 3.0625. 1.25, and I square it, gives me 1.5625. And last but not least, it's 4.25 squared, which gives us 18.0625. Okay? So all of these numbers should be positive because you end up squaring the number, right? And a negative times a negative is a positive. Just be careful you don't, if you're doing this, say this one here, that you don't type this in your calculator, because this actually will come out to be a negative, because what the calculator does is it takes 3.75, it squares it, then makes it negative. So if you're going to punch this in your calculator, what you need to do is put brackets around at negative 3.75. Okay? So now, that's the square done. The next step would be to take the sum of them all. This guy here, right? So to take the sum of all of these values right here. Okay? So that means we've got 14.0625 plus 3.0625 plus 1.5625 plus 18.0625. So that's going to give me 14.0625 plus 3.0625 plus 1.5625 plus 18.0625. Providing I didn't punch something in incorrectly, I get 36.75. Okay, so that's the sum calculated. My next step now is to divide by n. Well, n is the number of data values that are in the data set. So here I've got one, from the original data set. The original data set is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers, right? So I'm going to take this value, so 36.75, and divide it by 4. Alright, so that gives me approximately 4.08333. Okay? So leave this number in your calculator because we're going to use that number. We're not going to round it off here. So now, since I've divided by n, my last step is to calculate my square root. So my standard deviation is actually going to be equal to the square root of 4.08333. So now you notice how I've got this 4.08333 left in my calculator. I'm just going to take the square root of it. So depending on where your square root sign is, mine is right here. If you can see that, it's in yellow. So I hit my second function button. I've hit find the square root. So now I have two options. I could write this number in right here. It looks like I divided by 9 one too many times, so I'll just type in this number. So 4.0833333, whole bunch of threes. Okay? And then it comes out to be approximately 2.02. So that means my standard deviation is approximately 2.02. Okay? So that's how you calculate standard deviation.